Wednesday, April 5th. I've been working on my Waking Up the Flowers sweater, which is the stonecutter pattern, and I realized that I had made a mistake in the cable pattern. So in the pattern, what you're doing, it creates a sort of peplum egg with the ribbing along the side, and there's an increase on this side of the cable, and then you're decreasing on this side every single round. But you're supposed to have a certain number of rib stitches set aside, marked with a marker, and you don't work the chart over these stitches. But I had made a mistake. I was just going along, and I had done the decreases over into that marked off ribbing section. But when I actually read ahead in the pattern, I was doing it and it just didn't quite feel right. I did it for several rows anyway, but then I actually read ahead in the pattern and I was supposed to keep those stitches marked off and work the decreases in this cable section. But instead of ripping back all of, I remember, like 6 to 8 rows of knitting on something this large and intense, I remember to post that Karen of the Fringe Association blog had written about fixing like cabling and texture patterns. I'll include a link in the description box. But I basically just pulled the amount of stitches that I had to rip back. I think I ripped back all those ribbing stitches on the side and all of these cable pattern stitches. I just ripped them back, put them on a double pointed needle, and then just knit back and forth on that little section until I got back to where I was supposed to be. So I was just really happy that I thought of Karen's post, and that even in a cabled pattern with decreases, I didn't actually have to do any cabling when I ripped back, but it wouldn't have been that hard to do the cable. So just, even when you make a mistake like that in something that's cabled or textured, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to rip out an hours of work. You can just tink it back a little bit on that one section and keep going. I just wanted to record some sort of video, even if it's no podcast. Right now I'm just hanging out. I am catching up on some knitting podcasts. Right now I'm watching the latest episode of Hawthorne Cottage Craft, which is a podcast that I've just recently discovered, but I really enjoy it. Kate does beautiful work, and she's from Ireland, so her accent is amazing. Today I am wearing my breadbasket pullover. I don't remember who this is by. I believe it's by Kathy Zimmerman. It was in an old issue of Interweave Knits, but I think you can buy the pattern just on its own. And I am working on my To Waken Up the Flowers sweater, the stonecutter pattern. This is definitely something that I have to concentrate on, but I do really enjoy working on it. So I'm just hanging out with my knitting podcasts, my knitting, kombucha, tissues, and cough drops. I hope you all are having a lovely Saturday. Hello, so today is Monday, April 10th. It is a gorgeous day outside. Oh my goodness. We had some rain this weekend, I guess towards the end of last week, and now it's like 70 degrees and beautiful. So as soon as I got home from work, I changed, grabbed my book and my knitting, and came right outside. So this week I'm reading Hi Tippy. Reading My Name is Lucy Barton by Elizabeth Strout. I'm almost done. I had heard people talk about this book, but I honestly didn't know what to expect. Didn't really know what it was going to be about. It's different than any other book I've ever read. It's not like a short story collection, but it's like a collection of stories that the character Lucy Barton is recording about her life that are kind of some are from farther in the past than others, and they're not in chronological order. But it's very interesting. Elizabeth Strout definitely, as one of the reviewers says reviewers says in the back, one of her themes are about how incompletely we know one another, and in the redemptive power in little things, which I would say is definitely true of this book. And then my knitting, I did my gauge swatch for the Brookdale vest by Elizabeth Smith from the Main Knits book. And my gauge was supposed to be 16 stitches to 4 inches. I have 20. But I do not have a size, that was on size 8 needles. I do not have a size 9 circular needle. I would have to go all the way up, and I can't find any of my 10s. And I don't want to buy a size, like, I wouldn't really use a size 9 circular needle for anything else. So I don't really want to buy one. Plus I want to cast it on. So I think I might just go up a size and order another skein of yarn to be safe. So yeah, so I'm hoping I'm going to cast that on and continue reading. Today is April 12th, Wednesday. It is a rainy, kind of cloudy day here today, but the past couple of days have been absolutely gorgeous. Just want to share a new project that I cast on. It's the second cast on in the past few days, but this is not for me, as I've only done like 3 rounds. This is going to be the Imiti by Carrie Bostic Hogue, and I'm casting this on. There's a new little baby that will be born next month, whose the parents go to our church, and there's going to be a baby shower for her the last Saturday in April, and I wanted to have something hand knit, but seeing as this will be a spring baby, my typical, if I'm going to knit something for a new baby, it is a hat or something like that, something nice and warm, but not, that doesn't work so well for spring babies. And I just wanted to cast on another baby thing, let's be real. And so I've always admired this design, but I never really got around to making it. But yeah, so this is going to be the Imiti. It's basically, it's a very simple style tee, but then it has a like a floral stitch pattern that goes up the middle of the shirt, which I think is super cute. So I'm just sitting here on this rather gray but still warm day, and I'm going to see if I can get some work done on that while I'm drinking some iced tea. Normally when I come home from work, the first thing I do is to make myself a cup of hot tea, but because it's been so warm lately, I haven't been doing that. I've been doing iced tea instead. I still drink hot tea every morning when I go to work. Like, I make it and bring it to work in a travel mug, but it's iced tea weather at last. I'm so happy. So yeah, time to get on some baby knitting. So I've been working along on my Imiti by Carrie Bostic Hogue. I feel like I'm saying that name wrong, but anyway, I messed up the stitch pattern here. With the stitch pattern, is supposed to be like a diagonal section of yarn overs, and then a certain number of stitches, and then your section of slip knits. But on this repeat, I switched that. So I've got my slip knits over here, and my yarn overs over here. Let me get that closer. So you can see this is what it's supposed to look like with yarn overs
and then slip knits. So you can see this is what it's supposed to look like down here with the slip knits and with the yarn overs over here, and then slip knit over here. But right now I've got my SSKs and my yarn overs. So I'm going to be doing the same technique that I used on my stonecutter sweater when I messed up the cabling. And I talked about it in my last vlog and my last podcast. But I thought this time I would take a video to show you just what exactly I did. So I need to rip back a few stitches to get to where the beginning of the problem is. So I will need to get those stitches out of the way. I will be needing to rip back these stitches, which is 2, 4, 6, 8, 13 stitches. So I just will slide those off the needle and then just find the loop of yarn. Just find any loop of yarn that has been knit into them and rip that back. So I will be ripping back until about here. So now at this point I'm going to take my double pointed needle and go through and pick up those stitches. And forgive me for all my sniffling. So now that I have all my stitches on the needle, I just use my double pointed needles and I will use the loop of yarn that I ripped out and just go through and knit the correct stitch pattern. So now, because this is knit in the round, I'm just going to slide the stitches back to this end of the needle, figure out which loop of yarn to use, and do it again. I find it is easier. I'm knitting this project English style, but it is easier to do this knitting continental style, since the end of the yarn, just where the yarn is that I'm using. So there we are. I have finished. It was just like 3 rows that I had to rip back. So now I will put these stitches back onto my main needle. And resume knitting. So I hope that helped you to be able to see that just how easy it can be to just rip back and fix your mistakes. Now, slipping that many stitches off the needles can be a little nerve-wracking, but it's knitting. If all else fails, you have to just go back a little bit farther. And it's definitely works better in a more woolly yarn where the wool is sticky and is not going to just be sliding out. But in this case, the yarn I'm using is a superwash merino with a little bit of nylon, so it's not as slick as some superwash merinos I've used, but it is possible to do this with a more slippery yarn. So there, I hope that helps you next time you need to fix a mistake, that it's not quite as desperate as it may seem.
Hello, today is Friday, April 14th, and this morning I went to Knit Wit Yarn Shop. It's located in Portland, Maine. I've been there a couple of times. You may remember on my podcast when I talked about going to get a signed copy of the book Maine Knits. And this morning I was out, I had a couple other errands to run, and I dropped my brother off at school, and then I was aiming to be back in time to pick him up. But it turned out he had to be back later than I thought he did, so that gave me enough time to go from the new part of the city, South Portland, where it's all the bigger stores like Walmart and Target and all the restaurants and everything. And then downtown Portland, it has all of the smaller businesses, the older buildings, the more historic places. A lot of one-way streets and parallel parking, which is why I don't go there very often. But I'm doing a package swap, like a yarn swap, with someone who lives in Norway, and so I wanted to pick up a skein of yarn specifically for that swap. So, I mean, I had some in my stash that would have worked, but they weren't quite what I wanted, so I went into Knit Wit. Worked it while I had the day off work today. And it's a beautiful little shop. It's not very big, but most of the shops in that part of Portland are not big at all. And today when I went in, it was the owner who was working, which is really cool. She was super sweet. So she asked me when I was checking out if I was visiting or if I lived around there, and I said that I told her what town I lived in. Then it's about 30-40 minutes away, and I told her that I don't like city driving or parking, and she told me she lives on an island just off, not very far from Portland. So she said she lives there, and so she can walk everywhere. She doesn't actually have to drive. I was jealous. But then she told me that there's a yoga studio right nearby that has a class that does classes in the middle of the day. So she told me that if I come after 1 o'clock, it'll be easier to park. So I'll do that next time. But I bought a skein of yarn for the swap. I wanted to get some yarn to knit those mittens, and if I went back and forth, first I thought about getting Quince & Co. But then I decided to go with Let Lopey, which the owner of the shop was telling me they've only just recently started carrying, which I thought I would have remembered seeing it when I was in there for the Maine Knits book signing a couple months ago. But I got 3 skeins of it. They're each 109 yards to 50 grams. And yeah, I got the colorway dark gray. Sorry, I'm still getting over my cold. Let's see. So I'm sitting in my car waiting to pick my brother up, and I thought I would do something semi-productive. So yeah, I'm super excited. I've been thinking of buying some Let Lopey from the Woolly Thistle, but it was exciting to see some in a local yarn shop. So yeah, very exciting. Yeah, I'm excited to use my Let Lopey. And now that I know what time of day to go to Knit Wit, I just might go there more often. Today is April 15th. It's Saturday. I've been making quite a bit of progress on my MET. Yeah, and it's more green than it's coming out there. But it has raglan shaping, and so I've joined on the sleeves, and I have started to do the decreases for the yoke. It's been a lot of fun to just work on a quick little project like this, and I've honestly never done a sweater with raglan shaping with the sleeves knit on like this, so it's cool to try a new technique on a small baby sweater. So yeah, that's what I've been doing. I'm wearing, this is like my go-to comfy cozy day sweater. It's like my Saturday sweater. I've worn it like the past 3 Saturdays in a row. Yeah, so just hanging out, gonna be working on some knitting today, and then hopefully editing and uploading this vlog. I just wanted to say thank you so much for watching, and until I see you next time, I hope you are learning from your mistakes and having fun creating. Bye.